Welcome back. Heavy hearts in the Southmoreland High School area. They put out a tweet today. It says, quote, "It is with heavy hearts to hear the passing of Southmoreland football coach, alumni Ron Frederick. Coach Frederick was a great coach, an even better person. The school district program and student athletes will miss him greatly. Our condolences to his family." That would include his wife Liz and kids Colin, Dylan, and Sophia. He had just gotten that job, Andrew, and then a day later, suddenly he's not here. Undetermined why, but man, what a terrible situation, especially with 3 young kids.
Yeah, I can't echo that sentiment strongly enough, Bob. Yeah, that's just a horrible thing to have to hear you read. Jeez.
Yeah. Wish all the
Terrible
best to
tragedy.
Liz, Colin, Dylan, and Sophia. Yeah. Our hearts are with you tonight. All right, we got a lot of calls, so let's get right to them, and we'll get into some other stuff as we go. First, David in Finleyville. David, go ahead.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, I want to ask you and Andrew a opinion. Who's likely you think the Steelers would take for their quarterback? Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, or maybe Deshaun Watson? Now, hang up and listen. What do you think?
Well, I think all 3 are far-fetched, quite frankly, the way I get a read on them, although you can make a case for all of them. And would they be better? Absolutely. The Deshaun Watson thing is interesting because there are a lot of teams that would love to have him. But I think, Andrew, they have to wait. The NFL's not taking any action until there is action in the legal system. And who knows when that's going to be, and I wonder how long it's going to take. He missed the entire season.
Yeah, it's a snail's pace. And really the whole incident there, well, the series of incidents with him, they even go beyond some of these, horrible accusations that have been made against him in the massage community down in Houston, because there's also a sense that if, let's say that never happens, Bob, he was going to hold out and not play for the Houston Texans. He was going to almost try to pull Le'Veon Bell there and try to sit out the year and force their hand to trade him, even kind of pushing aside the stuff that's happened to him off the field. He never wants to play for the Texans again. And now because of what's happened in his personal life, I think the feelings are mutual. But you're right. I mean, it is moving at a glacial pace, the legal process, the criminal process as well. So if you're the Steelers, you can't give up multiple first-round picks for that. And I don't think the Texans are at a point where they want to sell low on Deshaun Watson either.
Yeah, eventually they may have to sell a little lower anyway, depending on how this goes. But yeah, I'd right now say it's up in the air with him for 2022 until something changes here. All right, let's go out to Fred in North Huntington. Fred, how you doing?
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, one of the glaring weaknesses on the Steeler defense this year has been any linebacker they put on a running back or they put on a tight end, it just seems like they're lagging behind. I know Devin Bush has got an option year coming up. Robert Spillane, I believe, is a restricted free agent. I don't see neither one of them, Bob, in a year or two, or maybe even going into next year. Yeah, exactly. Being part of this team. Do you see that being a high draft choice or somebody in free agency we could pick up? Because just covering a tight end, Bob, has been such a problem for this team.
It has been. Yeah, it has been for a while. And yes, the answer would, to me, be yes and yes. Thanks for the call, Andrew. They got to do something about it because I bet that they're going to give a 5th-year option to Devin Bush because they have a lot invested in him.
No,
you don't think they will?
Don't say that.
I'm just saying. Well, if you had to put betting odds based on FanDuel, one of our sponsors, what would you say?
Well, 2 separate questions. Are you asking me what I predict they'll do or what I want them to do?
Yeah, both. Answer both for me, because I think they will based on what all this stuff they put into him, and I don't think they want to give up. But I understand that why you wouldn't, because you then put him in a position of earning his next paycheck, and that would actually. There's a lot to be said for that. It's worked with a lot. I think Terrell Edmonds had his best year ever because of it.
Let me ask you this question. Did Devin Bush this year do any better than Artie Burns the year he was up for his 5th-year option?
I'd have to go back and look at what Artie Burns. I know he didn't do much, no. So the answer is probably no.
Right. What grade do you give Devin Bush for the year? Maybe you grade him on a curve because of his knee and you give him a D instead of an F?
You don't think, though, because they traded up and gave up assets and took him 10th overall, they're going to be willing to wait on him as long as they can?
Why didn't they do that with Jarvis Jones? Now, I know they didn't trade up for him, but he was a very high pick.
They did it
he
with
wasn't somebody
Dupree,
that got picked. Yeah, but Dupree had big playoff performances. He knocked the Dolphins quarterback out of the game. The week after against the Chiefs, he forced a fumble. You know, he was starting to come on little by little. You were seeing incremental improvements, not leaps and bounds, but there was a progression. It was the opposite with Bush. He took a huge step back this year. Bob, his fifth-year option is more than $10 million.
I understand that.
He is not that kind of football player. And if they do that, I think it's because they're clinging to the hope that he's going to be the guy that they use that 10th pick on.
Yes.
But nothing that they've seen on the field. See, if I were another player, that would drive me nuts, because then it wouldn't be a meritocracy. It would be about what you thought a guy was 2 or 3 years ago and not what he is right now. And that for me, as an NFL player, would drive me crazy. Is he good or not? If he isn't, why are you guaranteeing money to him?
But when you're a number 1 pick, there is no meritocracy. Those guys last longer and longer. Guys who are undrafted, 7th round, 6th, they got to go every year.
Haskins got cut.
Earn it.
2 years, got cut. They didn't give him any.
So let me ask you this then. Would you draft that position again if you found someone in the 1st round, let's say, who you thought would be the next Ryan Shazier, for example? Or do you go out and sign someone? They have a lot of money. They got to do something, don't they? They can't afford to return what they have, and they're not going to return everybody anyway.
I mean, Fred's overall point about that inside linebacker position being a huge problem for them was spot on. It was very much right. But, you know, to me, you know, the kid from Georgia, Dean, I believe is his last name, was a phenomenal player there. You know, he's projected as a top 10 pick. If it's a David DeCastro situation, where a guy that is, you know, projected as a top 10 or top 15 pick, if he falls to you at 20, great. Don't reach for a guy because it's a need. Don't reach for a guy because you've got, as you so eloquently said, you have free agent dollars where you can fill that position there and not go into the draft feeling like you need to find a starter at inside linebacker.
We have Rick, Chris, John, Arnie, and Rob. We'll try to squeeze as many as we can when we come back. You're watching the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, also listening on 93.7 The Fan. We're powered by FanDuel. We're back in a flash.